Hi, my name is Jera Brandvig, and I'm so excited to be sharing with you my second fabric collection for Lecien Fabrics called the Conner. And with the Conner comes this really fun sewing notion, which is crochet lace. And there's so many fun ways to use lace as embellishments, including binding with lace, which I'll be showing you in a video tutorial. It adds a really nice crochet look to the edges, which is great, especially if you don't know how to crochet. And by the way, this block here you can find in my second book, Quilt As You Go Made Vintage. So I put together this mini quilt sandwich. This is the front of it, and this is the back, and I'm going to use this to show as an example how to bind this using the lace. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to flip it over to the back of your quilt. And then you are going to align the lace up along the raw edge of your quilt. And I recommend starting in the middle, somewhere in the middle of your quilt, not too close to the corners. You want to make sure that you align the scallops of the lace with the edge, with the raw edge of your quilt. Next, you are going to fold a 45-degree angle right over here. And the key is you just want to make sure that the scallops are always, when you can, aligned with the edge of your quilt. So you're going to fold a little 45-degree angle like that. And then you can pin that down before you take it over to your sewing machine. But what you're going to do is sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance going all the way down here. So I went ahead and just used a clover clip to hold down that 45-degree angle fold. And then I will take it over to the sewing machine. My scallops are lined up. And then I'm going to start sewing it, about a little bit above the top of the lace as shown here. And I'm using a 2.5 stitch length. And then just sew a 1/4 inch stitch all the way down. And you'll see that when you sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance, you'll just naturally sew, like when you get to the dip of the scallop, you'll be sewing right at the bottom of that dip. And then when you get to the corner, you're going to stop at 1/4 inch away from the corner, just as you would when you're binding traditionally, and do a back stitch, and we'll do that mitered corner. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is fold it up and down, just like you would with traditional binding, as if you were using fabric. Like that. Just make sure, the key is to always make sure that those scallops are aligned with the raw edge. And we'll take it back over to the sewing machine and start sewing from the top. And you're going to repeat this for all 4 corners. Now as you reach the end here, this was that 45-degree angle that we folded over, you're going to want to trim your lace so that it overlaps that by maybe about 1 inch. Like that. And then you're just going to keep sewing all the way down. And it actually really doesn't have to be full inch. You just want to make sure that it goes over that 45-degree fold. And then you can end with a back stitch Okay, so now that you have attached your lace to the back of your quilt, the next step is to flip it over, and I like to use clover clips to clip the scallops down around to the front. And you can place a clip every 1 or 2 scallops, just whatever keeps them down. So I'll do this edge first. And when I clip it down, so here's, my stitch from the other side. You can kind of see it there, my 1/4 inch stitch. When I flip it over, what I'm trying to do here is make it so that the bottom edge of my scallop here is aligned as much as possible with that 1/4 inch seam stitch underneath it. So right there, here. And you can always adjust it as you're sewing it as well, because there is some stretch to this crochet lace. And when you get to the corners, you just fold them down how they naturally fall. So this one goes all the way down that way, and then this one you just fold over like that. You can get that nice mitered corner, and then you can just hold that down with a clip. So you're going to want to clip like this all the way around. So I brought this over to the sewing machine, and what we're going to do is stitch this down. And what we're trying to do is, so this is your 1/4 inch seam allowance from when you attach this on the other side. And what you wanted to do is basically try your best to stitch right over that again. A good way to do that is to use the bottom of these scallops, so this line right here, as sort of a guide. And since it's lace, you can actually sort of see through it and see that that 1/4 inch seam, so that's nice. And when needed, you can always, pull it and adjust it to make sure that that it's covering it. And then when you get to the clips, just take them on out. So when you get down to the corners, you're going to carefully remove that pin, and you're going to want to make sure that your needle ends in the down position right on this fold to lock it down. There. And then you'll lift the foot, pivot, put the foot back down, and continue sewing. And so there you have it. You have your lace binding attached with your cute little scallop design, and that was where you started and ended. It's hidden there because you did that 45-degree angle flap. And this is how the back looks like. It's quick, pretty easy, no blind stitching needed, and it really adds a cute embellishment to your project.